Hi, my name is Candace Nelson, and I'm here to present a research proposal. Can text messaging be used to increase adherence to a Mediterranean lifestyle? Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death for Americans. By 2035, costs associated with cardiovascular disease are expected to reach $1.1 trillion, and much of that reflects the cost of treating rather than preventing the disease. While some risk factors are inherited, lifestyle changes can reduce risk for cardiovascular disease. The Mediterranean diet and lifestyle has been shown to reduce the risk for cardiovascular disease and other conditions. It's characterized by eating a diet of fish, monounsaturated fats, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, legumes, and moderate consumption of alcohol. Lifestyle factors include being physically active, not smoking, and having healthy resting patterns, and having social support. Personalized nutrition support has been shown to be effective in helping people change their behaviors, and text messages have been shown to mimic the advantages of one-on-one nutrition counseling. This research will help determine if encouragement and education delivered through text messages could help healthy adults change their habits and avoid costly illness. So the research question is, can text messaging increase adherence to the Mediterranean lifestyle among adults over age 40 with a risk factor for cardiovascular disease in a Seattle area primary care system? The hypothesis is that adults who receive the text messages will increase behaviors consistent with the Mediterranean lifestyle. Text messages have increasingly been used to deliver health interventions because they're easy to deliver, they minimally interfere with a person's life, and they're low cost to send. Studies using text messages have relatively high retention rates and benefits have been sustained. They've been used in promoting adherence to medication schedules, preventing excessive weight gain, reducing diabetes risk factors, and quitting smoking, just to name a few. Studies have showed that getting text message information and support on a regular cadence can help participants meet their health goals. One study broke participants into 2 experiment and 1 control group. One experiment group received personalized text messages, the other received generic health content, and the control group didn't receive text messages. The two experiment groups improved significantly over the control group, but they did not differ significantly from one another. This indicates that the messages were effective whether they were general or tailored. It's also possible that two-way text messaging can increase feelings of social support and therefore help people reach their goals. In a weight control study of pregnant women, the participants were asked to interact with researchers by responding to questions. At the end, the women reported that the intervention was helpful and they recommended it to friends. In a weight loss study, participants texted with the researcher, who texted back with feedback. In-person weigh-ins weren't required for this study, but many participants showed up anyway. One significant finding was that those participants who were engaged with the researcher reported a 7.8% increase in their quality of life. That was largely attributed to the social support they received. One marker of success in a behavior change intervention is if the change persists after the intervention ends, as was the case with Asian Indian men with prediabetes, who received text messages with advice and encouragement. Of those original participants who were diabetes-free at the end of the study, 87% returned for a follow-up. Although both the control and intervention groups put on weight, their blood pressure increased and so did their waist circumference, but some of that was attributed to age. But by the end of the 5th year of the second study, the relative risk reduction in the intervention group was 30%. Which led researchers to conclude that the impact of the initial text message campaign persisted at least 3 years after the intervention ended. My study will be implemented in partnership with a primary care clinic. Researchers will recruit 255 participants to account for a dropout rate of 20% and be significant based on an a priori test and medium effect size. Participants will be placed in either control or an intervention group. Both groups will take a 28-question MedLife assessment. The intervention group will receive 5 text messages per week, and they'll be asked to respond once a week. After 90 days of intervention, both groups will repeat the MedLife assessment. Inclusion criteria will be adults over age 40 at the primary care clinic who are able to read and speak English. They must have a smartphone and be willing to receive text messages, and they will have at least one risk factor for cardiovascular disease, which could include something like hypertension or a family history of cardiovascular disease. Exclusion criteria will include they're unwilling or unable to receive messages, they're on a diet for medical reasons, they have a condition that could be worsened by this study, pregnant or planning to become pregnant, or a diagnosis or personal history of cardiovascular disease. The study will be submitted for institutional review. Participants will be given clear information about the study and be informed that they can decide for themselves if it's right to be involved. They can leave the study at any time and will be given contact information for the researcher. Any potential harms will be minimized. Risk and benefit will be spread among all clinics in the system, and researchers will protect participant privacy. Researchers at the end will calculate the mean difference in the scores between the pre- and post-intervention assessment for each group. Using an independent means t-test, the researchers will determine the difference and the level of significance. Because cardiovascular disease is largely preventable, it's worth investing in prevention rather than treatment. Text messages are a cost-effective way to promote behavior change, and this research will be the first to measure the effectiveness of text messaging to healthy individuals in an attempt to reduce their future risk of cardiovascular disease. It's not without its limitations, though. All participants come from the same primary care system in Seattle. They all have primary care providers, and most will have health insurance. They have the ability to read and write in English, so some people will be excluded. The data is self-reported, which means that participants could over or underestimate, and 90 days is a short time to make a lifestyle change. Still, we feel this information is valuable to the future of cardiovascular disease and preventing illness. Thank you.